Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Toby Driver. I'm from the Royal Commission on Ancient Monuments in Wales, and I'm talking this afternoon with my project colleague Rob Shaw from the Discovery Programme in Ireland. At ARG, we don't often hear about Ireland in the context of aerial photography and airborne remote sensing and drone survey. So it's a really good opportunity to come here today to talk to you about how we deploy these techniques within our EU-funded CHERISH project, which was specifically looking at the issue of climate change and coastal heritage and improved data gathering in the coastal zones of Wales and Ireland. The project allowed both our organisations to develop leaps and bounds these technological sort of areas of our work. They've left us with really important survey legacies. And our opening slide just shows some of the fruits of our labour. Not a bad work day this in May 2022 over County Kerry, high in Cessna, 8 miles offshore to record Skellig Michael Monastery offshore here, a World Heritage Site and long monitored by Rob and his colleagues from the Discovery Programme. And here we are with Gary Devlin on a wintry, autumn day it was in County Cork in 2017. So the CHERISH project, it's an acronym, Climate, Heritage and Environments of Reefs, Islands and Headlands, was a 6-year EU-funded project, came to an end last year, and it had 4 key objectives. And among these, really important sort of target objectives, really, to target data and knowledge gaps. We were working away from urban areas where climate change priorities are high, so those rural parts of the coast where we had very little geomatic data, often no LiDAR data, no 3D data. So we're trying to get away and out to these data and knowledge gaps, these remote coastal locations, to establish new metrically accurate baseline data through a range of different techniques. And we're also looking at the coast edge from the terrestrial edge down into the inshore waters. The project was a really nice one to work on. We have 4 big partners ourselves, the Royal Commission in Wales, Aberystwyth University's Department of Geography and Earth Sciences, so we're working with geographers, which is brilliant, paleoenvironmental specialists, scientists, amazing people to be on an archaeological site with. The Discovery Programme in Ireland, who have always innovated in archaeological survey techniques, and the Geological Survey of Ireland as well. So CHERISH is a joint nation project between Wales and Ireland, and you can see our numbered study sites here in West Wales and those in eastern and southwest Ireland, taking in a range of coastal baseline study sites from island landscapes, Martello towers, medieval churches and coastal promontory forts, to paleoenvironmental sites, dune systems, inshore lagoons, and of course undersea wrecks as well. So a key ethos from the start of the project was that wherever we were, whether one of my colleagues was on a shipwreck survey or I was flying in Anglesey, we were part of a single survey team for the 6 years. And that was really important. Wherever we were one single survey team, and we were implementing a toolkit approach to archaeological recording. And that way deploying a range of techniques to cover this difficult and dynamic sort of geographic area, the coast edge. Now, leading up to the 2017 start of our project, the toolkit approach to recording had often been discussed, but I'm not sure if anybody really nailed it down. And so in CHERISH, we sketched it up and then got it drawn professionally. And this is the approach we had to our coastal recording of climate change impacts in Wales and Ireland. So from the coast edge, and then the seashore area, and then the inshore waters, and taking in the difficult white ribbon zone, this area where we have a data gap between low water and then the limit of inshore survey vessels for bathymetric survey. You get a sort of data issue in the middle. We're very keen to join that up in seamless onshore-offshore recording. And everything you see in this diagram we implemented over the 6 years, whether it was contracted in LiDAR and satellite imagery, or drone survey and aircraft, or light aircraft survey that we're going to be talking about today. But then paralleling that with geophysical survey on the ground, paleoenvironmental coring. That's Dan at the back doing some topographic survey. We can recognise everybody in here. There's Ted, who can't join us today, unfortunately, and excavation, and then new bathymetric surveys of shipwrecks. So it was an ambitious start. We coined this in 2015-16, and we deployed it during the project. Whenever I'm talking about flying nowadays, I always show this slide at public talks, because everybody asks, well, if you've got a drone, what on earth are you doing flying around on an aircraft? Now, I'm a drone pilot in the Royal Commission as well. I've got my GVC qualification. And they're both different survey techniques. We've had this today already. They both do different things. The aircraft, at sort of visual flight rules, not able to fly through fog and cloud banks, take you about 130 miles an hour over the landscape. On a good day, 3 to 5 hours flying time for a regional or country survey. That's your first look at particular things, so you can deploy photogrammetry in the air as well. Whereas the drone, normally the little quadcopter style drone in the UK has a visual line of sight of 500 meters and a 400-foot limit. So much more restricted, but you can still do huge surveys with these. So it's different tools for different purposes. Now, aerial archaeology in Ireland has a long history, but a sporadic history. There's never been a national approach to survey in Ireland as such, but there's been some really big names, really big hitters who we owe a lot to over the years. Leo Swan, Marcus Casey and Con Brogan. Leo Swan's and Marcus Casey's archives now digitized and available online. Marcus Casey's just recently gone up online. That was on Twitter the other day. Cambridge University have flown out in Ireland on a few sorties. But ours, our very own Dr. Gillian Barrett from Wolverhampton University, did about 20 years of work in Ireland, crop mark recording, writing up articles for it, lecturing over there. And at the start of Cherish in 2017, I went to see it at her home. This was her archive for Ireland on the shelf here. And that's now being transferred over to Ireland because of her involvement in Cherish. It's good to see. There was a critical air and earth report by the Heritage Council in 2008, showing the state of the nation for air photography in Ireland. And there's been more recent work now with drone discoveries. 2018 yielded lots of crop marks on blue sky imagery, and Anthony Murphy had his drone henge discovery near Newgrange. If you search drone henge, you'll come up with all that. So there's an enormous amount of potential in the Irish landscape for this type of work. We knew we wanted to deploy aerial survey in Ireland from Wales, what we knew in Wales, over to Ireland. It's highly responsive. You can get flying a few days after a storm. You can access remote sites and islands as well, and it gives you a dated record of change. So a standard photograph from 1,500 feet here of Ballinskellig Abbey will show you sub-meter data on gravestones, stones and rocks on the beach, and the state of these harbour defences, or these coastal defences here as well. So it remains a pretty good technique for that first look at particular sites. Making it work, Ireland was well served with light aircraft and regional airports. So we'd make a booking 2 to 4 weeks out for a survey and then check that weather leading up to that flight date, whether I'd hop on a ferry or not to come over and meet Rob and Ted at the airport. But I'm pleased to say we did quite a lot in the project. We got 26 hours of joint nation air photography done. That's when I'm in the plane with my colleagues, and then Rob and Ted were able to do some other surveys as well. We got out in 2017 from Cork Airport, the Atlantic Flight Training Academy, with 20 Cessnas parked up on the runway, ready to go. Incredible. Good service at County Waterford and Wexford on the coast. 2019, coastal Dublin and the east coast of Ireland here as well. And then County Kerry in 2022. And that's our stretch out to Skellig Michael there. We had the weather for it, which is fantastic. It worked very well. We had about 2 days on site on average. And we contributed thousands of photographs to the Irish Archive as a legacy. Some successes. In 2019, we were sort of tasked with making a new baseline oblique record of Dublin Bay, the islands in Dublin Bay. That's the Howth Peninsula, and we've got Lambay Island and other properties offshore there. It's a difficult landscape. It's right under, or right in the controlled traffic zone of Dublin International Airport, where we've got airliners taking off and landing. Drone survey was challenging. The geological surveyors kept trying to get out there. You need the weather and the boat owner and the landowner access to get out to each island in turn. So we made a booking on 20th March 2019 and worked with the local pilot at Western Airport at Dublin, who regularly liaises with Dublin International for tourist flights over the city. And the morning of the flight, absolutely wonderful. Look at the windless March morning. When do you ever get a windless March morning? With beautiful clarity over the sea, and we were able to go in at 500 feet under Dublin International's airspace. So it was a fantastic trip. And we're able to build a big new image archive of these offshore properties. We're able to get out 5 miles offshore to Rockabill Lighthouse, really nice new high-resolution photographs of these reefs and islands. Powerful images like that at Rush here. This became a popular image, was exhibited in Dublin. Yeah, it really sums up quite wealthy housing development on a very vulnerable coastal peninsula. We've got a Martello Tower there from the 19th century as well, really summing up some of the challenges with climate change in this dynamic environment. Dromana Coastal Promontory Fort, a famous site in Irish archaeology. And then sites like Shennick Island. We luckily had good visibility through inshore waters, so we can drop these colour images into Photoshop and strip out the colour bands. If you push the cyan band here, it almost drains the sea around. Really the only way to look at sort of coastal sites or coastal photographs. We begin to pick out harbourages, fish traps and wrecks and so on in this way as well. So we're very pleased to get in there, get that weather window and get these photographs banked. And we had other good coastal surveys, particularly County Kerry in May 2022. The Irish coast is generally privately owned. So if you want to deploy a drone out to some of these peninsulas, you have to liaise with individual landowners. And look how fragmented the Kerry coastline is. So the Cessna, again, a really good way for rapid access to this highly fragmented island landscape with offshore peninsulas and so on as well. And you can still get a good shot with the plane if you're in a sort of 90-degree banking turn over Stag Fort up a sort of dry valley. Really some interesting sites out there. So we're pleased with the results. Other aspects of our work, we're able to get a training school done in 2019, which linked a day conference with a 2-day flying and drone school along the ARG model, the ARG workshop model. There's still not enough of these happening nowadays. We had 13 delegates from postgrads to professional staff here with a morning ground school in interpretation and camera use and an afternoon half-an-hour air experience as well. So it's a really good couple of days. Handling a professional camera, not something many people are familiar with nowadays. Shutter settings, exposure settings, image framing as well. In the land of mobile phones, it's quite a lot to get back to and work on, but we had a really good time. These are other things we can deploy more of, hopefully, in the future as a way of spreading the word about how drones and flying work together. My last slide, just to say that I think we've handed over a good legacy of those 26 hours of flying, thousands of new images which are now archived in Ireland. And then we can take those back to Jill Barrett's images from 1991. This is the Copper Coast in Waterford, my shot from October 2017. And we can begin to have that image archive of change, because some of these sites are extremely fragile and will change rapidly. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Rob, who's going to tell you about other aspects of the recording.
To start with, I'm just going to go back to Toby's slide here, which just emphasises the difference really between what Toby was doing with the airplane photography and what we were going to be using the drones for. So the drone, sort of UAV drone, whatever we like to call it, I'm going to call it drone for this session, flies obviously at a lower altitude due to regulations, 120 meters. It also has the ability to be stationary, unlike the plane, so you're able to set yourself up for the images that you want and make sure you get the picture that you're after. So the first thing we would use them for regularly would be just simple site inspections and setting up photographs of monuments. So you'd be getting into a position where you could see the monument clearly. In this case, for Carrickmott, looking at some relatively gradual erosion that's taking place there, almost a creep erosion that takes place on the coast there. And in comparison, down below Doonbeg Fort in Kerry, where catastrophic failure of the cliff takes place from time to time, taking with it the ramparts and the stone-built structures. So this is really the difference is we're much lower, we're setting these shots up, and we're able to create the record that we're after. Big advantage, perhaps, over the plane which is flying much higher. But that's not really the best use of the drone. This is where it comes into more power, I think, is when we're working with architectural surveys, where we're looking at elements of the architectural features that we're not able to get access to. This would be on Dalkey Island in Dublin Bay. We're trying to do surveys, detailed 3D surveys using laser scanning and photogrammetry in order to get the tops. We're able to use the images from the drone to supply very low but detailed surveys which match and give a complete survey model at the end. But mapping from the air, I think, is the most important contribution the drones have made. And this has been a major part of the CHERISH program in Ireland. Using drones to establish baseline data from which we can then measure future change. There are many different drones. We experimented in CHERISH with larger fixed-wing drones with heavy-duty cameras on. We looked at fixed-wing drones, but in the end settled on relatively cheap, versatile and robust solution with the Phantom, the DJI Phantom series. Started off with the ordinary Phantom and then moved to the RTK solution. So we were using ground control from GNSS. We continue to do that throughout this project just to keep continuity with the survey data that we produced. In the field, it's relatively straightforward using the DJI Ground Station Pro app. This is where we set the parameters for the flights or the area, the flying height and the overlaps, which calculates the ground resolution, normally between 1 and 2 centimeters in the model. More subtle but probably more important adjustments have to be made to the camera settings, to balance lighting conditions, the need to minimize motion blur, ensure sharp images for us within processing. Something which really can't be emphasized enough. They really need to have the right camera settings. So when we're happy, the parameters are sent to the drone and the drone off and flies the mission automatically. The next step then is processing data. This example is filling fully bed ring fort on the Irish sea coast off Wexford. The outcome of the survey is a series of overlapping vertical image photographs and a file of ground station control points ready for data processing. So during CHERISH project, this was done in Agisoft Multishape, following a standard sequence of processes you see on the screen, aligning the photos, importing the ground control, identifying the ground control point, and then building visual elevation model, generate the ortho image, and generate a mesh model. So these are the outputs that we have. And with these outputs, standard outputs for photogrammetry would be the digital elevation model, high resolution 2 centimeters with the associated ortho image. So I've just enlarged the images there, which show us quite clearly that we have this very soft sediment coast collapsing into the sea with regular intervals of collapse taking place. This baseline survey was established in November 2019. And then we followed that up in June 2021 with a repeat survey using identical flying parameters. So we ended up with a new ortho image and digital elevation model, which were at the same resolution and the same net mapping system, allowing us to make these comparisons with the survey that was done 18 months earlier. And that's the analysis that we're able to do. We do this in GIS. At the time that we were using ArcGIS for the CHERISH project, we now do this for QGIS. A simple raster computation, subtracting the 2019 DM from 2021 DM, and that highlights the changes that have taken place. So we've had an area of large failure with the accretion below, but we also have areas of erosion taking place just through the general wave action and coastal action on the site. The survey has not been repeated here. This was a CHERISH project, but the data is banked, the data is available, and it can be accessed by the National Language Service if it ever would be within these sites. For sites such as Doonbeg Fort with near vertical cliffs, the GIS approach, the 2.5D approach, doesn't really work as satisfactorily. And the option here has been to look at the exported mesh model instead. A little bit more like you would do a survey with a building. You include more bleak photographs to create better models. And you're then able to do analysis, computations, this time in 3D software, Geomagic, which allows us to identify and even give some estimate of the volume of loss that's taken place on the site. This was the impact of Storm Ophelia in October 2017. The final element, I suppose, of using the drones in CHERISH was to capture video footage. So using a few basic approaches, camera, even on a relatively low cost drone, will give you a high quality video that can be used for outreach. So we use these, we took this from the internet, just suggestions of how to take individual shots rather than trying to do complex maneuvers with the drone to create smooth paths. So it's all in about editing and bringing together all the different pieces. So you can create the story by gathering different pieces of video. With a bit of editing and other additional images, we're able to apply narratives to these, and it's pretty easy to make good outreach and educational materials. And this was done particularly through the lockdown of COVID. We put together videos as part of Heritage Week, when sites visits or face-to-face opportunities weren't really available. So this was a replacement for the public engagement that we've normally have done. This is just gathering together different sources. It's not all drone material. There'll be some of Toby's higher images will be there. You put the narrative there. There was a running commentary that I switched that off in case that I'm going to cut out of this now, as you've probably seen at the top. And that's really where we get to. We have all of our cherished best practice or good practice was put into a publication. There are still quite a few copies in Wales and in Ireland. If anybody wants a hard copy, they can contact either organisations, or you can download the publication online.